Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Designing DeFi. Today we're going to talk about Jones DAO, which is a yield strategy and liquidity protocol for options. Basically, what you do is you deposit the native tokens into a vault, and it gives you back J assets at the end of the period. I'm going to talk about a lot of UI patterns that I've seen here, but also a lot of user experience patterns, so I hope this will be useful for you. So right at the beginning in the vaults, you're able to see the total value locked right here. Auto rolling, I would prefer to see a bit more information about what auto rolling is. So maybe using a bit of information here, like a tooltip or something, very, very useful. And then here you have the different vaults, and if you click on any of these vaults, you would be able to go inside their vault and see more detailed. So here you see the average historical yield, which they explain in detail in the next page, but I would love to see a bit more about this here as well in terms of a tooltip. So the ETH has 9.62 API, so average historical yield, and then the vault is filled 54%, and basically says the vault is open. I've been a bit tricked here because I really thought this was a button. I would prefer to have a button here, just so I can see that there is some sort of an interaction happening. And I thought this was a button in the beginning, and I think what kind of blew me over was the fact that if you look at the button here and the connect wallet, they're basically the same shape and the same height and the same width. So that kind of blew me off because they're using kind of the same styles. So whenever you're designing, make sure if you're using an indicator such as vault is open, make that different, make it the height different or anything, not to confuse the users, because if you make it the same as a button, then you would think that this is an interactive component, because the buttons is an interactive component. So here they've done a really good job at doing this differently, but unfortunately not here. A few other things that I want to point out here is just a bit of an inconsistency when it comes to the way they've used the typeface height in terms of their list here. So you have I think a pretty consistent one here, the vault filled, and I think that they are using, let's see, yeah, they're using 14 here, and then they decided to go for 12 on these ones, which I feel it's a bit of inconsistent because I'm starting out with 14th, and then this is kind of a bit small, so I would use 14 or maybe even more, maybe 16th on this. So something to look out for. Make sure you're consistent to when you're using list items to make sure you're using the correct ones on each side. And another thing I wanted to point out here is I would also want to see more the use of tooltips, because tooltips are an important factor for users who are not so familiar with DeFi, I would say. So just to explain a bit what total value locked is, what the epoch life position is, and all of those stuff. I would love to see more of that. Here we have the average historical yield, and very, very useful information. You can go through these and you're able to see this very clearly. Again, one of the things I want to see here is I want to be able to, I feel like while you're scrolling down, this just kind of pops here and it has no edges, and I like the way they've used these containers here for the content, but they haven't used the container for what's happening here. So I would definitely want to see a container here as well and see everything contained into this. A very good example, this is something we've designed previously. It's called Spectral Finance, and you can see the way the design is here that every part of this has its own contained aspects here. So this is spectral. This is about seeing your on-chain activity, just your on-chain score. If you want to check your on-chain score, very easily just go here and they will be able to give you a score based on some stuff that you've done on-chain, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can definitely see the different containers here and how we view. So I would love to see something similar here for the average historical yield. Yeah, I really like that they educate people into how to deposit and what the vault is and what they introduce them into the G assets. And if you want to learn more, you click here and then you learn more. However, I would love to see a highlighted link on what the G asset is, because maybe I want to dive a bit more deep into that, but I just don't want to go on the Learn tab. So consider adding things like hyperlink a few words that pops up a tooltip component that educates you further on that would be a very good touch here. So let's go into another, let's just go one of the vaults here. So we have the vault status, deposits and claims are open, auto rolling. Again, I want to get a bit more information on that. I like that they use a tooltip here, gives you a bit more information. And then you have the vault and the analytics, and what this does basically, I think it's a segmented control. So it just goes from vault to analytics. I would love to not see this just floating here and see kind of a component around it. Again, like you can see the way they've used here these components for the segmented control that they use here. I would love to see something similar or maybe different, but something that kind of differentiates this from the rest. Same as here. It's kind of easy to see, but it would be better to kind of have it roll there. And then you can get more information here, average historical yield, previous epoch yield, and I like the tooltips. Again, gives you a very good understanding on what's happening here. And again, like I would prefer to see this a bit more bigger. It's just like too small, and using 12 points for the body is just not something that you want to be doing on anything that you want to have people to read. So don't use 12 points, use above 14. I would actually recommend 16 if you're doing that. They're using a different component I see here when they're showing product info. So I like this more because it's kind of a bit more consistent and a bit more obvious. For the segmented control that they have here. I like the use of links that take you to different parts that you can explore more. And then here it tells you what's next. Again, really like the educational part. This is a part that if you click, you would be able to take you to the staking. I would love to see like a button here that kind of says, just an interaction button, because it doesn't it's a bit different to the average historical yield here, because this one is not interactive, and then when I'm hovering over this one, it is interactive. So I would definitely want to see a button here that takes you there. What else? So let's go a bit into analytics. So in the analytics, we have the monthly return. We also have the average historical yield. I really like that they give this information in a tooltip here, and I would definitely prefer to have a tooltip here as well. Something else that I wanted to see, again, I would love to see this information right here inside a container. I do feel it's just like floating in space here. And the fact that you're using, which I think is a very good thing, to be using gradients in the background is very good. If you're doing that, I would advise to use a container. because things can get difficult to read. Like if you see here, we have a container and they also have like this dark background. Again, the use of a container is very much welcome here. So yeah, this is kind of what I wanted to take you through. I hope you found this helpful. And if you're interested in what we're doing, just head over to our website. I'll leave the link in the description and you can find more about what you're doing. If you're trying to build a protocol, if you're trying to do a redesign or a landing page, don't forget to write us in the submit form. Have a great weekend.